project pro bono, and because I did that, I got to work with the principal, and I went all the way from programming all the way to CA, and I got to go out to the site every week. I wasn't paid for it, but the entire firm ended up taking on the project pro bono. So because that happened, I decided not to get paid for those hours that I was working on the project, and that allowed me to both do community service hours and then also go out to job sites, which is not something that's really easy to do.
I think it's very important. Sorry, go ahead. It's very important to have a good relationship with your bosses, because they are the ones who need to see that you have the drive and leadership abilities to progress and really get through this, because a lot of people get started on this path, they don't finish it. Those guys see it happening all the time, so they've given up on those people, and they don't want you to waste time going to site or doing things that's not profitable for the firm. Some people have that approach. So you want to stand out in the crowd, you want to show that you're driven, you want to do this, and you're committed to it. And go during lunchtime, go in the evening to the site, whatever you need to do on the weekend. There's always something under construction. So you have to find your own way to make it happen. Nobody's going to babysit.
If they have an idea of what you still need, like programming was really hard for me to get hours in. When stuff would come in, my boss may not have, used the work that I did, but he'd give me the opportunity to do the master plan of the site. He'd give me the opportunity to work on that for a couple hours. And often he would, red market, and it gives you a chance to do that, as long as he knows what it is. But I think it's good to say, because they don't know that there's 16 categories, and they can do, fill in all these little chunks and parts of it. If you're meeting regularly, they might give you the opportunity.
But just keep in mind, you're not the only people that have this concern. So everybody understands that. You just have to remind your principals, project managers, that you need that help. Because you're getting a lot, this is something that we all know, ultimately, that we're supposed to be helping people do. We just need, often a reminder that, hey, next time I go out to the job site, which is happening next week, you reminded me this week, let me make sure that I take you next week. There's no bad intentions in that. It's just everybody's busy all the time. You do have to watch out for yourself and make sure you check all the boxes.
Also, if a whole bunch of girls come in at once and they need a little bit of help,
absolutely.
Get on that as fast as you can.
With IDP 2.0, one thing, if you're unemployed, you can do a site visit with an architect who is not your employer. And that's something that we're organizing through the chapter, and you're not going to have to be a chapter member to take part in the site visit.
And this is tied to the other question on why somebody should get a license. It basically frees you from the fear of your future, I think. Even if you are unemployed, you can do things that are legal. And it allows you to grow in the profession, even if you don't want to start your own business, because it does set you in a separate pool. Because as soon as a person gets a license, the firm can market you as a licensed professional. Your billing rate goes up, so you do sit in a separate category from the other one. So you are all of a sudden apart from the rest of the firm, and you will grow before the other people will grow. So if somebody says, I have been working in the profession for 20 years, I'm a project manager and blah, 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 and I don't see any reason to be licensed, when the firm leadership is going to change, they are going to look for people who are licensed. It's just a simple thing. When firm ownership question comes into play, partnership, and all those things come into play, they will prefer people who have a license over the ones who are not licensed. And while you're young, that's the time you just get it out of the way. You can't do it when you're 50 or something. I'm just saying some people do it, but it's just better to just get it out of the way and get it done and never have to worry about it again. So that's how I think.
Also, the path to licensure, the actual studying, the bettering of your own knowledge is enlightening. And I have friends who, you know, are in the business 20 years and they're project managers and all they've done is red lines, and they slowly moved into project managing and they slowly started taking over responsibilities, but they never really had to look at a heat exchanger to make sure it was installed the right way up. You know, it's those kind of dirty things that you have to learn in order to become licensed that you can then bring back to the design table and talk to people with more knowledge than you had before. And that's hard to get just by going to work every day, you know, taking that extra step. So if nothing else, and I'm obviously not licensed yet, but this process has given me so much more knowledge than I had when I graduated, than I had when I did construction, than I had when I had 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience, whatever. Just by taking that knowledge and forcing it in my head and then seeing how it all works was incredibly necessary.
You know, for me, I mean, I was like meeting with clients, I was going to interviews, things like that. I mean, I had started this office in Oakland here when I was unlicensed. So for me, it was it was amazing kind of the cachet that comes with having AIA instead of associate AIA after your name. And it really did make a huge difference. And I find that I have a lot more kind of respect when I'm sitting in a room with a client now that I'm licensed. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest.
I got laid off about 3 months before I got my license. And just because my firm ran out of work. And I was unemployed for about 5, but I would say that I got employed because I got licensed within that time. And when I did get a new job, I made more. It wasn't a reasonably large amount more, and I think that's also because of the licensure, not because I had 10 years of experience, but I think I would have been hired as a drafter or less. You know, it made a big difference. So you may not get a raise at your firm, but that's often the case. You often have to change jobs to get the pay raise, not the pay raise.
If you're licensed and you're young, you're sort of rare, which is in its own way sort of sad for the profession. But most people that we see on a daily basis are not licensed. And if you've shown the discipline and self-drive to get licensed, it sets you off as a self-starter in that sense. And that's big when you're young and you are applying for a new job. I agree. It doesn't necessarily change. You know, you don't get a raise when you do it, but when you are coming up for associateship or any of that, or as you mentioned, sort of principal sort of level discussions, that sort of thing, it's a non-starter if you're not licensed, at least in our firm. So it is a prerequisite that you get it done while you can, while you're young, while you have the ability, you know, while you're thinking about it, because it will end up playing a big role in your career.
Coming from the crowd, I'm not an expert at the test, but I'm one of those people that waited a long time because everybody said, oh, you don't need it, you're doing it, you know, this and that. And then, you know, when the economy breaks and you get worried, you are that next person. And without that credentials, it's exactly about all that, the respect from the clients that, you know, you're dealing with the gray hairs, depending on what you're into, and if you don't have that kind of backing, you kind of don't get that respect, and you won't see that for a long time, and then you'll see it at some point. So, I think it's really important.